Hey, Yinz guys and gals, gather around for a journey like no other. It's time to hop on board the Yinz Goin podcast. From the rivers that meet at the point to form downtown Pittsburgh, to the sheer face of Half Dome, to the furthest corners of the globe, Matt will be your compass, your confidant, your companion as we explore the wonders of travel. So sit back, relax on your couch, and let the wanderlust whoosh over Yinz as we discover new horizons and reminisce about old favorites. With Matt by our side, the sky's the limit. Join Matt on the Yinz Goin podcast because when it comes to travel, the journey's just getting started. And now, without further ado, let's give a shot for your guide through the highways and byways of travel. Your planning partner, the man with the map, Matt Schraeder. How Ian's doing? Welcome to the Where Ian's Going podcast. I'm Matt. I'm your host. Joining me next is another newcomer to this podcast, but he has a lot of podcasting experience. It's Tony, who is one of the hosts of the WDW Reflections podcast. We've talked to his co-host Dewey a few times, but it's Tony's first visit here. So welcome, Tony. It's good to talk to you.
Matt, it's a pleasure to talk to you, and thank you very much for inviting me on. This is really cool.
And every time I hear Tony talk, I just have complete jealousy about his voice. That my
Oh,
voice doesn't sound as nearly as great as his on the radio, so or a podcast, whatever we're doing here. But
thank
wait,
you.
there's more. Also joining us is Tony's wife Jenn, who has been on a few of the episodes of the WDW Reflections podcast as well. Jenn, it's wonderful to officially meet you and talk to you here.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me here. It's great to be here.
So, again, we're talking about magical experiences at Disney, whether it's Walt Disney World Resort, Disneyland Resort, or Disney Cruise Line, Alani, Adventures by Disney, whatever. So, what would you like to share?
Oh my goodness, if we get started, we'll be here all day because we kind of have different things with all of them, sort of. Not Alani, we haven't been there,
No,
not
we've
yet.
not been to Alani.
But I mean, I guess do you want to start off, or do you want me to
You can
start?
start.
All right, I'll start off. I guess I can start off with um, what Disney Magic means has meant to me over the years. I mean, I think it's always great when you take someone there for the very first time. My very first visit, I was just like, I don't know if anybody remembers, there was an old commercial where there was an old guy standing at the end of Main Street and looking out at the castle and just staring at it, and his family was asking him to come along. That was me, my very first trip there. I mean, I had dreamed about Disney World forever. I'm a little bit older, so I remember when it was being shown on The Wonderful World of Disney, and I never really thought I'd even actually get to visit. So for me, the magic was actually stepping there for the very first time and looking out and seeing the castle and seeing everything uh, appearing in front of me for the very first time, for real. And similarly, when you mentioned Disneyland, you reminded me that when I first brought Jennifer over to Disneyland, we had planned a trip um, spontaneously because we were watching a video about the making of Disneyland back in whatever year that was, and we had we had decided, okay, let's go to Disneyland. We went there, and as soon as we got off the monorail, all I heard from this one was, "Oh my goodness, that was in the video," and "Oh my goodness, that's
Oh
really there."
yeah,
I
yeah.
need to.
It was so amazing. Like I was like, oh, there's the foundation from the House of the Future, and it was.
Yeah, she was just taken aback by everything, and I just loved watching her expressions. And similarly, when I've been there with young kids, watching their expressions is priceless. It brings you back to the feelings that you had when you first got into this stuff to begin with. And I think that's what really kind of defines where Disney magic is born and where it manifests itself, and bringing you back the joy that you felt when you first encountered this topic.
And yeah, I've gotten to experience other people's first several times. That my first trip was September of 1982. It was just before I turned 3 years old, and so this is before Epcot opened. My mom I was talking to her a while ago that she was saying about, yeah, we got to go and see the spaceship Earth there. We couldn't go into the park, but we got to see it from the outside, and
Yeah.
I don't quite remember that, but my first memories are of being in Walt Disney World and on that trip. That it's as far back as I can remember.
Wow.
So yeah,
That's cool.
I just
that's
have preschool.
so
Not as cool
but
as Disney.
yeah, but then we went a couple of other times, growing up, and that magic never diminished as a kid of seeing the castle or seeing Spaceship Earth or going into Hollywood or MGM Studios back then for the first time, things like that. And my wife did not grow up going to the park, so I got to be with her first trip, and that's actually where we got engaged. It was
Oh,
on that
cool.
first her first trip to Disney.
Hmm.
It was in front of the Tower of Terror. So yeah, in Hollywood Studios.
Hopefully that wasn't an omen for your marriage.
I would say what's scarier than marrying me, right?
Yeah.
No, that's her favorite attraction. So that's what led me to that. And it was during Christmas time, and so it was lit
Hmm.
up with all the projection stuff, and it looked very, all pretty like a gingerbread house. And so it was the perfect time. It just things worked out for that.
Did
Although
you make
walk
frequent visits after your first one, or was it sporadic
for going
for
to
any
Walt
of the
Disney World
parks?
after that,
Yeah.
or
Uh-huh.
we go pretty much every year.
Because
So and
what I was thinking about is when we first went to Disney World together back in 2000, we had such a great time that Jennifer then went back and told her parents all about it. And from that point on, until they passed a few years ago, we would always take them along. We'd always go as a family
Mhm.
group. And her dad was a huge, huge fan of Mickey Mouse and of
Yeah,
Walt
I
Disney.
was going to get into that.
Yeah. Why don't you?
Okay. Well, I was not lucky enough to go when I was 3. I grew up in, I guess, a semi-Disney family. Half of that. My dad was a major Disney fan, but he had never been to any of the parks. I barely knew the parks existed growing up, except from hearing about all the other kids at school who got to go there on vacation. And we never even were able to go on vacation. We didn't have a lot of money. But my dad was big into Mickey Mouse. I had Mickey Mouse sneakers the whole time growing up, which all the kids at school made fun of me for, but and we had Mickey Mouse TV trays and Mickey Mouse dishes, and he was just a big fan of that. And in fact, in my childhood room, I had Dumbo curtains on the windows, which I never even connected that with the whole Disney thing until just like about 5 years ago. I was like, oh, wait, that was Disney too. So it's always been sort of subconsciously underlying there in my life. But the thought of going to Disney World was like going to outer space, just wasn't a thing that was going to happen. And my one aunt, my dad's sister, had been promising that she would take me one day. And she, of course, hadn't. And then my dad sort of cornered her one time and was like, hey, are you going to take her or not? And so my aunt relented and said, okay, I'll take her. And I, of course, was a big sissy and was like, I'm not going without mommy. So my poor aunt had to pay to take not only herself and not only me, but my mother as well when I was 10. And that was in September of 1985. So that was my first trip to Disney. And I just loved it because I was into audio animatronics. I had seen on TV the videos about Epcot, and the fact that they had Ben Franklin walking across the floor blew my mind away. And then when I was there in the Hall of Presidents, remember being 10, I had no idea about politics. There was no CNN or Fox News or any of this on television at that point in time, at least not where I lived. So I knew the president was Ronald Reagan, but that was it. So I was sitting in the Hall of Presidents with a direct sight line to Ronald Reagan, and blah 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 is going on. And I looked, and if you've seen him in Hall of Presidents, you know he sits with his legs crossed. His foot at his ankle would move, and he would tap his ankle from time to time. And I was like, just completely dumbfounded and blown away by the fact that someone had sat there to think at this moment in time, Ronald Reagan is going to flex his ankle. Like in the whole outline of the entire show, all these characters, someone had that conscious thought to put that in there. Because it's not like you could say humans blink every whatever second, so the audio animatronics blink whatever seconds. This was just completely randomly timed. He would tap his foot, and that stayed with me. The other thing that stayed with me was a really cute anecdote when we were in line for the Haunted Mansion. The little boy in front of in front or behind me. I forgot where he was. But, and of course, this is me at 10 years old saying the little boy, ha ha ha. He was probably like 7, was scared about going on the haunted mansion. And his dad goes to him, oh, look, that's just like the house we're going to move into. And I was thinking, that's not the comment to make. Little did I know I would acquire over the years a whole like catalog of inappropriate things parents said to their
Yeah,
children at Disney.
that's something we talk for another show.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But I remembered that they were called Doom buggies, and I thought
Yep.
that was hysterical because Doom buggy, right? Play on words. And the other thing that caught my mind from that trip was the imagination ride and Figment, the figment of your imagination. And I'm a writer by nature. So that play on words, I love that. And from that day on, I would make a joke about, oh, it's just a little purple dragon of your imagination. And I loved Figment so much that I even bought a little Figment figurine when I was there because this was pretty much before every ride you walked off of, there was a gift shop. And in the gift shop was anything you could imagine with every character on it. That didn't exist back then. um, so I got a little Figment figurine and I still have it and I love him to death. And then during, I don't know when it, oh, going back to what Tony had said before, when I was studying for the bar exam, I'm an attorney. Tony and I went to Disney on our first trip together, and I loved it so much. I was like, I have to take my parents because this has been my dad's thing my whole life. And so I paid to take us all to Disney. And it was just, it was wonderful. My parents loved it. And fast forward a little bit, like my parents and I started going every year.
Just about every year, all the way through from that point till 15. Yeah.
And we started bringing Tony
Right.
with us. And so then we went as a family.
Yeah.
And my other really good Disney memory is my dad's. This was, must have been like about 2010. And now when you go up and talk to the characters are really in character and they act out everything. Like if you've seen the antics between Donald and Daisy, and they're very into it. But back then they weren't as into it. And we were at breakfast at Ohana's, and my dad had that Tony and I had done for him on his cell phone. This was before Apple phones and that type, before smartphones. On his phone, he had a picture of him with Mickey, and his ringtone on his phone was the Mickey Mouse Club March. So we were at Ohana's for breakfast. It's very loud. And Mickey, I mean, I love him, but he's getting up there in years. So I'm sure his eyesight's not the best. But my dad showed Mickey the picture of the two of them on his phone and had Tony call it so it would ring. And Mickey, I swear, he recognized that that was them in the picture and he started doing marching along to the ringtone. And my dad was just so thrilled. And it was an amazing moment. But back to my Figment story. Just this year, Tony and I went back to Walt Disney World after not having gone for how many years?
14 years.
After not having gone for 14 years because both my parents and his father became ill and eventually passed away. And we finally made our trip back. And in the meantime, Figment had just started doing meet and greets. And I was like, I have to see Figment. I have to see Figment. And my other aunt was going through my old aunt's pictures and found a picture of me with Dreamfinder and Figment. And I was like, oh, I have to take that with me to show Figment when I get my picture taken with Figment. So we go there. I stand in line. Figment has to go on break. I'm very, very scared. I'm like, he has to come back. He has to come back. They're like, oh, he'll be back in 5 minutes. I'm like, whoosh. They're in line. I am so nervous. You think I'm meeting like the biggest celebrity ever rather than Figment. And so I explained to the
handler.
Yes, the woman who is his handler. I said, I have this picture of me with Figment and Dreamfinder from before that I want to show him. And I have an extra copy that, I can give Figment if he wants it. And so I went up to Figment and I told him how I hadn't seen him in so many years and we hugged and, yada, yada, yada. And I mentioned the photo and he was all excited about it. The handler was all excited about it. Everybody in line was they took the photo. And the handler said, we'll put it in his upside down house for him, which cracks me up. But when I told Figment that the last time I saw him was in that picture in 1985, he like staggered back. So it was lovely.
Yeah.
I had an experience similar to that. It was with Mr. Smee, though, that on that first trip in 1982, there's a picture of me with Mr. Smee that my parents have. And then there was a, after I graduated high school, we went down there as well that year. And so there was a parade going by and Mr. Smee was there. So I got a picture shaking hands with Mr. Smee at, 18, whatever years
Mhm.
old. And then we have the picture of me when I'm like 2.
Oh,
So
cool. That
Yeah.
is cool.
we didn't have the picture with us on that trip. Um,
To
weren't
show.
planning on seeing Mr. Smee. It just
Yeah.
happened. It was like, oh my gosh, I remember that seeing that picture. So we got another one. I wasn't
Oh,
quite shaking
wow.
hands. I think he was like holding me in the original one, and he wasn't going to hold me in the second one for sure.
Mhm.
You know, I always had a thing about meeting the characters. I always got nervous around them. I don't know why. I mean, my niece, who has been on our show, was actually
Flirts with.
friends with several of them, including somebody that you just mentioned. But the when I got close to them, I would always get nervous. I didn't really like to take pictures with them so much, but the ones that I do, and I look at them now, I actually laugh. They're kind of cute.
Yeah, we've had a lot of. Well, my daughter's 6 now, and we've taken her to. We got to take her to her first trip to Disneyland. It was my wife's first trip to Disneyland as well. Then my daughter's first trip to Walt Disney World, and so I've gotten to see it there. I've also gotten to go on my when my sister went with her kids. There were 3 of them. I got to see their first trip. So first trips are magical, especially when kids are that young. And we've
Absolutely.
had
You see it in their eyes, especially once they see the characters that they know. Their whole expression just either drops or they're terrified, like I used to be, because they're seeing something that they're used to just seeing on television somewhere.
and I have a funny story with that with my niece that she's now a senior in high school. But whenever her first trip, she would have been probably around 2 or 3 years old. And in Epcot, they would have that one area that was indoors where you could meet the characters. It's around like 2010. And so my sister and her husband and my 2 nephews, they all got a picture with Mickey and Minnie, or at least with Mickey. And my niece was, being shy and hugging my sister and putting her head on her. And then they put her down and they just let the 2 boys get pictures with everyone else. My niece was terrified of the character. So she was as far back as she could, back against that one glass wall. You kind of look in and see the characters, but she had a huge grin on her face.
Oh.
One of the characters took a step towards her. The face went from sheer joy to complete terror.
Yeah.
Character took a step back to complete joy.
Oh,
So she
wow.
knew the distance she needed to have with the characters, but back against the wall, smiling at them, waving. Did not want to get any closer though.
Oh.
Yeah, that's all part of the fun. I'm sure what I found interesting reading recently was that they are, I don't know if it's true or not, but they were told that if a kid comes up to them and hugs them, just let them hug until it's over. Like don't step away from them. And I think that's pretty nice because it they weigh on the kids comfortable, being comfortable with them to produce that kind of magic.
Absolutely. And whenever I've been on the WW Reflections podcast, it's most of the time been talking about things with Star Wars, with Dewey and I being 501st members.
That's right.
And we get a lot of the same stuff that whenever we're dressed up in character, that we'll get some little kids who are terrified of us. And that's where trading cards come in, that we can hand them a little trading card, and that sometimes can break the ice if we're not that bad. But if they're enthusiastic and come and hug us, it's amazing seeing the looks on their faces too. We had another nice interaction. Well, we've had a couple. You mentioned about how the characters will mime to each other and everything. That we've had my daughter had a little the little munchkin or munchlings, whatever, of Minnie Mouse.
Munchlings.
Yeah, and so she was carrying that around with her and was showing it to Minnie, showing it to Mickey, showed it to Donald and Daisy, and she gave it to Donald and he's holding up for Daisy to see, and they're making a whole big deal about it
Mm.
while she was getting her picture. So such cute, cute things. I also had a really nice interaction with my daughter with Aurora, so Sleeping Beauty, in Epcot. We went and rope dropped at Remy's, and then we're walking through the countries on our way over to see Frozen in Norway. And this was early in the day. Aurora's out walking around with one of the other cast members, being her, I guess, quote unquote, security guard, because he was a pretty big guy. No one else around. My daughter got to go up and she had a little pants on that had roses and a shirt on that said love, but the O was a rose. Of course, with Aurora, she
Yeah.
made a huge deal. Oh, you like flowers and roses? I have a rose garden too. And she spent like 3 or 4 minutes because no one else is around. And of course, Aurora was great. She got down, kid level. So she was at her height. My daughter gave her a hug and she asked her, it was cold out that morning. So she had a Minnie Mouse coat on that we had bought in Disneyland. So she pulls it open and my daughter's being kind of shy. And I got so many great pictures. The expression on Aurora's face, it's hard to tell who was having a better time, my daughter or Aurora in that interaction.
You just made me think about, have you ever gone to any of the character breakfasts or meals?
We have not done them with my daughter, but as kids, we did them.
That's
And
another place because I know her dad loved always we would go to Chef Mickey's
Mickey's.
was he insisted on that every single trip. We'd have to be there at 6:30 or whatever it was really early to make sure to get to Chef Mickey's.
yeah, we had a good encounter there too. That this was another high school trip. It might have been that same trip whenever after my senior year that I'd played lacrosse and I had a hat that was lacrosse and had our team logo on it. And Chip and Dale came to our table and they know how to play lacrosse because the one looked at my hat, pointed at it, started miming like he was cradling a lacrosse stick. Then the other one came over and did the same thing, and they had a big kick out of the fact that I played lacrosse.
Oh, the best thing about Chef Mickey's in the mid 2000s was if you went, we would go for dinner on the day we arrived. We would go for dinner and get like the last reservation almost. And at that point, the characters had lost their minds. And because the restaurant wasn't that crowded and it had been a long day for everybody. So they were so playful and so funny. And like the one time the chipmunks, they switched hats and it was just, they would be so fun at that time.
And that's nice those times because it's not crowded, so they don't have to worry about getting around to see everybody. They
Mhm.
can have that little bit more of an interaction and play around and stuff like that.
What's amazing, based on what you were just saying, is what these characters can actually see or what they remember. Because there was one time that we went and we had just entered the park, and the penguins from Mary Poppins were out there. Remember that one? You can see her expression with them.
Oh my God, oh my God, oh God, oh my God, oh God. Okay, this is such a good story.
Before you
Um,
go on, Jen, can you just be please a little more enthusiastic, okay? Bring up the
I
energy.
tell them that all the time.
I'm just so bland, right? Oh yeah. So we went to it was the Christmas party, right? Yeah. My parents and I were going on a Disney cruise, and Tony was going to visit with his family because he had family down there at the time. So he wasn't coming on the cruise with us. We were
Right.
leaving him behind.
Hmm.
This is before we were married.
Right.
I never ditched him after we were married.
That's it.
Is we were at the Christmas party, and so it's dark. And I guess we were on our way out. And on Main Street in the corner, that little covered bit,
Right before the railroad
the
area.
little gazebo-ish area where the characters sometimes meet off of where Mickey is now. Um, I guess Mary Poppins and Bert had been there because they often do hang out there. But they were gone or leaving, or I don't know. I don't care. All I know is I saw by the curb one of the penguins from Mary Poppins, and I love penguins. And I freaked out, and I was like, "It's a penguin!" And I started to do the penguin dance, like Bert does.
Exactly, yeah.
Well, this penguin was like 15 feet away from me, 10, 15 feet away, and he started to do the penguin dance. He saw me and did the penguin dance. And I just couldn't believe it because I mean I wasn't like in line to meet him or meeting him or getting my picture taken with. He was just Oh, it was amazing. He was just standing there and he saw me out of like the corner of his little penguin eye and recognized that this idiot girl, because I'm 20 something, this idiot girl who's like flapping around was actually doing his dance, and then he did it too.
The that reminds me of the line of sight. I mean, I know that you have portrayed troopers, and I mean, I wouldn't think that a stormtrooper would be able to see that much in front of them. And I was amazed when I was in Galaxy's Edge when they came and they approached me. I was wearing all kind of rebellion gear. I wasn't really cosplaying, but I was just wearing a backpack and a hat and that kind of thing. And when the troopers came over to me and started to he grabbed my camera and pressed record somehow and was able to get this interaction I had with Kylo Ren because I'd forgotten. I wasn't expecting him to approach me, and I was kind of surprised by that. So he did me a favor and just took my camera and hit record. I mean, how far can you see in those things? Is it a good line of sight?
So it depends on the character that some have better sight than others. That the main costume I wear is the biker scout from
Right.
Return of the Jedi, and the vision in that and the movement is amazing. That it's just like that one, lens in the front, and you can see so well in that. The actual regular stormtroopers, and I imagine yours were the 501st stormtroopers. Theirs actually not too bad. Um, it's a little bit different looking through the individual little lens holes, but the vision of that is pretty decent. You just have to worry about looking up or down can be bad. You have to kind of do the bend over things to look down. You can't always move your head as well, but straight line sight, it's pretty decent.
That's cool. I mean, whatever they do in any of these costumes, I'm glad that they don't look as freaky as the ones that were there on opening day in 1955, but at least they're able to present some kind of a a false reality that makes everyone still believe in them. You still want to hug them, you still want to get near them, you still want
Yeah.
your photo with them.
Yeah, and you mentioned before about the characters and their memories that my daughter has seen Donald in one of the parks, and then the next day she'll see Donald in one of the other parks, and she'll go up and like, I got a picture with you yesterday, and of course Donald's gonna nod and say, yeah, mime like I remember you, and I'll sometimes translate for my daughters like, what's he saying? It's like he remembers you from yesterday. It's okay.
Mhm.
So, you mentioned about the stormtrooper interaction. We had a really cute incident on Rise of the Resistance with my daughter. That we, wait in line and we go into the area after you get captured by the First Order, and you go in to see all the stormtroopers, and then you're going and waiting in line to go into the next little room, like the interrogation room, the cell, whatever. And the one First Order officer, he's saying, all right, which of you are going to give up your secrets? And of course, my daughter steps forward, raises her hand. Me, I'll do it. And so I got some of this on recording. I didn't get the whole thing, but I got enough that him and her, they were, he like recruited her to be in the First Order, and she's there interrogating the other people, like, what do you know? And he's telling her, no, you tell this person to do this, and she's bossing everybody around as this little, you know,
Oh my
4 or 5 year old. He's like, all right, now tell them
So
to
she's
get into
already
the
she,
cell.
she she's already getting into character.
Oh, and well, Kylo Ren's her favorite. Well,
Oh,
I
okay,
think
cool.
I think actually Darth Maul is her favorite, but she has, she definitely goes for the villains. But yeah, she's definitely an Imperial or, First Order that she's bossing people around and doing that. Oh, she had the time of her life. The people around us thought it was the cutest thing. I thought it was
Absolutely.
great. So it,
I love watching the kids when they. Sorry, I think her must
My
get.
loft cat once in on the. He was on the cat. This is just a normal loft cat, by the way.
oh
Jennifer
yeah.
has one of those loaf cats that they sell over at Gouge's Edge,
There. Okay.
Hmm.
and
Normal
so
loft cat.
every now and then when we're in mid conversation, he'll suddenly start making
Yeah, he's
noises.
just
Find some.
laying over on the couch all on his own.
Uh,
Sorry.
what I think what's very cool about what you were just saying with the kids is that I always wonder um, how that affects them later, how what memories that's creating for them, because my niece who eventually went to work in the parks and to play characters, speaking of Star Wars, I don't mean to turn this all into Star Wars again, but um the when she was 2 years old, she we took her to see the one of the Star Wars movies in the movie theater, and her favorite character as a little kid was Chewbacca. She started talking back to it. She'd see Chewbacca on screen. Every time she saw Chewbacca on screen, she suddenly would start lighting up and speaking to it. So it's interesting that all those years later, she became, one of those characters that did that too.
Yeah, we had my daughter has a love-hate relationship with the Wookiees. That whenever she was younger, the one walked by and she was terrified of it. But then as she's gotten older, she had a real cute interaction with Chewie that they even did a little roaring contest the one time.
Oh, did you take that one?
I did not. I got good pictures of it though. I had my camera out because she was like one of the meet and greets, and then it just transformed into her trying to roar like the Wookiee and him doing it back. So, but I got pictures of them both, lean back, head up, mouths open, doing the roars.
Was she any good?
Not too bad, especially for a 5-year-old.
Hmm.
What's funny is how they also, what I think the look kept made me forget this, but before the show, we were talking about the possibility of Disney cruises. And this kind of thing even extends onto the cruise ship. One of my favorite memories was there was one night that you got knocked out. You weren't able to come out and see. I went to go see one of the movies by myself. I think it was Iron Man or something, because she was just knocked out from all the excitement of the cruise, and they have a wonderful theater in there. I went to go see Iron Man. On my way back, it had ended kind of late. In one of the hallways, I saw Goofy walking in his nightgown. It was that late. He was walking around in his nightgown,
Sleepwalking
sleepwalking.
Goofy, yeah.
So, I mean, they think of little things like that that make your little experiences kind of fun, no matter where you are.
The attention to detail is
Yeah,
one of the things that I
Yes.
think Disney does the best.
absolutely.
Little nuances that you don't really, if it wasn't there, you wouldn't notice, hey, this, that's missing. But with it being there, it just fits so well.
Mm-hmm. Like how they have the droid tracks in the pavement at Galaxy's Edge,
Oh, yeah.
which, goes all the way back to Frontierland where they have the horseshoe tracks.
In bicycle tracks in Animal Kingdom,
Mm-hmm. Yes.
especially like in the Asia area.
Yes.
So, are there any other magical things you wanted to share?
Yeah, I'm actually thinking about how it does a lot of people like to uh, make quote unquote Disney adults seem
Oh, here we
weird,
go.
but I was just thinking about the fact that aside from her father being so touched by everything there, my dad was in his late 80s when I took him to Disney World one of the last times, and he insisted he wanted to come with me. He came, and he insisted he wanted to walk, even though he was in his late 80s, but he wanted to walk all of Epcot with me, which he did. We did it really slowly, but we had also gone to the Magic Kingdom, and one of the things that I'll always remember is the one day that we were at the Magic Kingdom. There was two things that happened there really quickly that I can tell you that were magical to me. One of them was that it was our birthday. His birthday was the same week as mine, so we both wore the button. And at that time, they still had Streetmosphere characters on Main Street, and the mayor of Main Street noticed that and started speaking to him. And my dad is from Puerto Rico, and so he mostly spoke Spanish, even though he understood English. So he thought that that was the actual mayor of Disney World. So he kept going on about that for years. He's like, the mayor of Disney spoke to me and made me feel important, and he was surprised that everybody kept saying happy birthday to us as we went to on all the different rides. But the most magical moment for me with him, and I'm glad that I did grab a photo of it, was that he was, he died. He actually got to live to be 100 years old. So he was from another, pretty almost from really, really early century. And when he saw the carousel, he turned to me and he said, I want to go on that. I said, what? He goes, I want to go on that. That's like what I remember when I was a kid. I took him on the carousel and he had the hugest smile. Probably, I don't think I had ever seen him smile so broadly as I did that day that he was riding the carousel in the middle of Main Street. I'm sorry, in Fantasyland. And that's a photo that I have and a memory that I'll always cherish.
And I'm looking up now how old is the carousel at Disney, Magic Kingdom. Uh, Thank you, autocorrect. It changed for the carousel to Tron.
Oh, that's a lot different.
That's okay. Built in 1917 initially by the Philadelphia Toboggan Company.
Oh,
Yeah.
so this one has real horses too then.
Yeah, and he was born in 1918, so that literally something from his childhood.
Yeah. And you mentioned about spending time there with your dad. That my first adult trip, I went and it was a time that, I had off, so I said I'm going on this trip, and the only other person who either wanted to come or could come was my dad, and he could only get off work for a few days, so he came down for the first couple of days of the trip, and it was just me and him going through the parks, and that's a very special memory that I have too. That I got a lot of good pictures, and well, of course, he didn't want to be in too many of them. He's like me; I'd rather take pictures of other people and other things.
Mhm.
But I got some good video that really highlights his personality. So years from now, as we're showing grandkids and great grandkids and all that,
You have
of
something.
what my dad was like, it's going to be a priceless memory.
Absolutely. And when you just said video, you just reminded me that I'm old enough to remember when there were Super 8 cameras, the old fashioned ones. And um my sisters are much older than I am, and so they were married already by the time I was born. And one of them made a trip to Disney World in 1973, I would think it was, and really close to when it opened. And they brought back these Super 8 films from that period. And I will tell you that from the time before I was even able to go, I would watch those movies over and over and over because it captured their experience while they were there. So that's another thing. So that's part of the reason why it struck me to actually be there, because I used to always watch those videos over and over again.
Oh,
Uh,
I'm sorry, those film clips.
I just thought of a funny story. I don't, you probably won't include it in your thing, but I want to tell you. When the Disney dining plan still existed before, like before they got rid of it back again, mid 2000s, we did one trip where we had it. And my mom was starting to get her dementia then. So she never got it through her head that we had the Disney dining plan. And one of the things that we as a family loved about Disney was going to all the wonderful sit down, table service, expensive restaurants like Canada, terrific. Of course, Canada cost
oh
half the
yeah.
price it does now then. But yeah, and with the dining plan, we went to Narcosis, we went to the California Grill, both of which we never would have gone to without the dining plan. And we kept playing this game with her where when the check would come, we'd ask her to guess how much it was. And we'd keep going higher, higher, higher. And we'd like give her, whatever the real number was. And she would like just like, it was hysterical because then she'd lose it because yeah.
Hey, but you don't got to pay for it. That's a nice thing.
Yeah.
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 Oh, we probably are the reason they shut down the Disney dining plan the way it used to be because we just boy did we make money on that trip. We made so much money because every lunch and every dinner we did at a table service.
So, and she'll dispute me, but I said that was the trip where all we did was eat. I don't remember doing anything other than we went to one restaurant and then it was time to go to the next restaurant.
We got like two or three rides in between.
That's the neat thing though, that each trip to Disney is often different.
Yes.
Of that's the trip we ate. I've said on here about, my daughter of the first trip when she was like 3 years old at Disneyland. We rode the carousel so many times, both in Disneyland Park and the Jesse's was it
Oh
Rodeo
yeah.
Roundup in on Pixar Pier in California Adventure Park. And then later on, she was able to get on more rides and more rides, um, and she got more interested in other things. Like I've told on here, the first time she rode Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind, she was just a hair tall enough to get on it. And like, if her hair would have been flatter that day, or if she would have shuffled her feet too much to wear her shoes down, she would not have gotten on. And then this last
Wow.
trip we went Rock and Roller Coaster, which I was so excited she got to go on because they're going to change it to Muppets, but she got to ride the original that again just barely 48 inches tall. That a hair scraped the top of the measure bar, like she's good enough, and so we got to go on it. So those things like that of it's the trip she got to do this, the trip she got to do
Hmm.
this, the trip we did this, that it
Yeah.
stands out.
Absolutely. I mean, the first time we went to Galaxy's Edge, we did that. My nephew and his son, we took them because we're all huge Star Wars fans, and unfortunately, my nephew was starting to get ill. So he said, "Let's go now," even though it was right at 2020. It was literally 2 weeks before the shutdown happened, and we were able to get there. And so that trip is always going to be on my mind because I'll always remember it was 2 weeks before the shutdown, and Galaxy's Edge was still kind of new. And my grandnephew was loving it. He was 6 years old. He loved everything that he saw. It was his first time ever to someplace like that, and the memories that we shared with them were something that'll be with me forever too.
Oh, you got lucky. We had our trip planned for mid-March in 2020, and they shut down
Oops.
the parks. They announced the shutdown like 3 days before our trip. And
Yeah.
we're like,
Oh no.
oh,
Oh, that's so close. Yeah.
it's all right. We went back.
Yeah.
Made many more trips back. It's okay. So I thank you both for coming. This has been awesome, sharing memories of Disney and amazing things that happened there. Tony, how can people get a hold of you, or you want to plug your
Sure.
podcast?
You can actually find me at the WDW Reflections podcast. Try saying that 3 times in a row fast. I always say Dewey says it a lot better. If you've listened to Dewey here on the past, I'm the producer co-host of his show, and you can find me there. And Jen occasionally pops in as well,
And I hope to have
and Matt as
the
well sometimes.
Yeah, me too. I hope to have the other co-host, Ron, on. He's out traveling the world. He does
Yes.
very great work with mission work in other continents,
Yes.
really. So I hope to have him on for a few comments too. Hopefully coming up next. So, but thank you both. This has been awesome. We have to make an appointment to have you back to talk about something, especially with all your Disney experiences and the cruising and everything too.
Mhm.
Sounds
Yeah,
cool.
thank you so much for having us. We enjoyed it.
See you real soon, as we say in our show.
And last but not least is another newcomer to this podcast. It's Elaine. Welcome, Elaine. It's good to talk to you.
Thanks so much, Matt. I'm excited to be here.
But Elaine's not a first-time podcaster, so she knows what she's doing here.
I mean, we might be a little rusty, but I appreciate all the faith that you've got in me. So,
All right, so we're talking about magical experiences at Disney. And Elaine, which one do you want to add in there, or which ones?
I have a couple. I mean, I have to say I have been so lucky and have experienced so many wonderful magical moments. In fact, when I was thinking about things I wanted to add to this conversation, I was thinking about things I've experienced as a guest and then things that I got to play a part in as a cast member. And was just like it just means everything. I can't speak for every cast member, but I will say like providing these magical moments for guests really is just like the best perk of the job. It's everything. So um I will say though, one of my I have two very prominent experiences, but one of them was definitely getting to meet Joe Rody at Animal Kingdom after riding Flight of Passage with him. That was crazy. If you don't know who Joe Rody is, he basically invented Disney's Animal Kingdom. When I was working there, my friends like to call him my white whale because he was at the time they were working on Pandora and were trying to get things open. So he was in the park a lot, but it never failed. He would be in the park on a day that I wasn't working, or he'd be there in the morning and my ship would be in the afternoon, and it was just ships in the night. We would just pass each other all the time. And it drove me crazy because I was like, I just want to meet him one time. I just want to shake his hand, tell him, how much of an inspiration he is to me, how much I enjoy all the work that he has done, and just like let him know, hey man, I think you're the coolest. But we were there one day for just like a little friend vacation. We do what we call family reunion once a year. And all of my friends that I used to work there with, we all try to come back and all go together once a year. But we were there on a family reunion trip, and it was like kind of getting like late in the day. Everything was kind of starting to slow down. You know how Animal Kingdom is, right? Like after I think 4 o'clock, people are just they're leaving.
It's kind of like
So
The Office on a Friday before a long weekend.
literally everyone's like, bye. So, but yeah, things were kind of starting to slow down, and we were heading back over to Pandora just to kind of enjoy, the nighttime ambiance. It's so beautiful there at night. Also, Animal Kingdom at night in general, don't sleep on it. It's gorgeous. The lighting
Oh, the
design is, oh,
especially Pandora with the bioluminescent stuff and things
yes,
glowing. Um,
yes.
and there's something about it's not like overly bright, like it's a a romantic
It
lighting.
really is. You're right though. It's not overly lit. It still very much feels like you are walking through a forest at night. You can see, but it's so dim and like beautiful. Oh, it's gorgeous. I love it. So we're kind of taking our time. We're walking through. We kind of meander over to Flight of Passage and we see that the line is starting to get kind of low. I think it was sitting at like 45 or 50 minutes, something crazy like that. Because this was like within the first few years that it was open. And I think we all remember it was cuckoo bananas trying to get on that ride for a while. So we walk up to the queue and there's a cast member standing out front. And we go to get in line and she kind of looks and she's like, do you guys maybe want to jump in? It was still called Fast Pass at the time. She's like, do you guys maybe want to jump in the Fast Pass line? And we all kind of look at each other. We're like, I mean, can you do that? And she's like, yeah, sure. She's like, the line's starting to get kind of low. I don't think it'll be a big deal. So she kindly, very kindly moves us through, scans us into the Fast Pass line. So lovely of her. She did not have to do that, but we really appreciated it. So we're going through the line and we're getting to like that last little stretch, before you go into that pre-show. And we're just standing there and we're talking about something totally stupid. I mean, who even knows? We're we're eating Goofy Candy Company sour cherry balls and just like talking about nothing. And all of a sudden I see this crew of people walking past, but not through the queue, right? They're coming through a side door, like a cast member door. And I was like, that's weird. And then I see it. I see Joe Rohde's earring like out of the corner of my eye. And you can't miss that earring. Like
And if you've ever seen any of the behind the scenes stuff about Animal Kingdom, like the Imagineering story, things like that,
Mhm.
or he was also instrumental in uh, Tower of Terror out in
Tower of Terror.
especially out in California, and it might have been
Hmm.
whenever they're making the change because I remember they made like, or no, maybe it was one of the other parks around the world that it was a Tower of the Terror thing that they put like a gargoyle thing that looks like Joe Rohde on there, I believe.
Yes, he is
Is it Shanghai? It's one of
it's in Japan.
the
It's
Japan one. Okay.
he's something high tower. He's a character now in Japan in their Tower of Terror. But it's funny because at that time when he was doing all of the stuff for Animal Kingdom, he was also simultaneously changing over the Tower of Terror in California. So the poor guy was like bi-coastal for a year. It was crazy. But like I said, he would just randomly be in the park and you would just never know. So I see the earring out of the corner of my eye, and my friend Shaquille and I at the same time kind of start like hitting each other in the shoulder, going, "That's Jarodi, that's Jarodi. Oh my gosh, that's Jarodi." Just freaking out. And I am like, I feel like my stomach just like dropped. I could not believe that he was literally standing that far away from me. And I kind of do one of those like, you peer around some of the guests in the queue in front of you, and I can see him clear as day. It's definitely him. And so they're loading him into the pre-show and they start calling for, parties. Do anybody have a party of two? Anybody have a party of two? No one had a party. I think they started at like four. Two people went up, another person went up and like, all right, we still have room for one more. We still have room for one more. And I'm kind of standing there and my friend Shaq kind of shoves me and the girl just looks at me and I think she could kind of tell that I was freaking out because she just points to me and she goes, "You." And she's like, "Are you a party of one?" And my friends look at me and they're like, "Yes, you're a party of one. Go, go, go." So they push me up there, and the girl kind of winks at me as I walk by, and I just kind of gave her a quick thank you. She was so sweet. And then I got to walk in. I could literally see him standing in the pre-show, and I'm just like, don't freak out, don't be a weirdo. He's super, super cool. But I got to ride the experience. He was like two bikes away from me, which was wild. And then afterwards, I tried to be very nonchalant and not interrupt him. He was very clearly like giving a tour to some friends of his and like showing them around the park. And so I just walked up to him. I was like, "I'm so sorry to bother you, Mr. Rohde." Had a lovely brief conversation with him. He was so kind and so generous with his time. Asked me a little bit about my time there. I would explain to him that I was a former cast member. I worked in Dino Land for a long, for like the majority of my time there. And, he was just, and he made some very funny jokes about Dino Land. But he was so sweet. He took a selfie with me, which was very nice. And he did not have to do that. But it was a very full circle moment for me as somebody who has always, even as a kid, really appreciated what these Imagineers put into these parks and the thought and the creativity that goes into creating all of this. My dad was an engineer. and really instilled that in me when I was little and we would go. It was just so magical to get to meet him. And I wouldn't have been able to do that without cast members just noticing, noticing and listening and watching and just being kind enough to grant me that opportunity. So it was wonderful. I think I cried for like an hour after. I just could not believe that that had just happened. So I got one Imagineer down. I just got to meet Tony Baxter and then I'll be good to go.
Well, now the question everyone's asking, when you met him, did you offer him one of the sour, goofy gummy things that you
I
had?
should have. They were in my friend's backpack. How could I be so
Okay,
silly?
the friend had him. Okay, you're off the
Could
hook.
you
But
imagine? Can you imagine walking up to him and go, "Sour cherry ball? Would you? Would you like?"
and I never got a chance to meet him in person, but I did have an email correspondence with Marty Sklar.
Oh,
So,
stop. That's like the Godfather. That's a big
uh,
deal.
and he extremely gracious man.
Oh,
I
yeah.
got one of his books and I got him to sign it. And so that's what the whole email thing was for. That email was like, hey, can I get this signed and how do I send it and things like that.
Mhm.
And then I was actually one time I was going out to Disneyland around then. I was like, I will buy you lunch if you would like lunch. He's like, and then of course he politely begged off that he was doing things with family. So I didn't, wasn't going to push and
You're
everything,
like,
but
I
it
won't
was a
push
shot
him.
in the dark. The worst thing he's going to tell me is no. So,
And you know what? He's Marty Sklar. He can say whatever he
and
wants. That
yeah.
is so
So,
funny.
but I was not two bikes over from him like you were with Joe Rody. That our
I've
friend
never been
Maureen,
so distracted on a ride ever in my life. Just like looking over, I was like, is he enjoying this? Because I'm enjoying.
our friend Maureen, who's been on the podcast several times, also speaks very highly of Joe Rody. That is one of her favorites as well. So,
Yes.
Maureen, I know you're listening to this. So you're both. I think Maureen and I just need some peanut butter and bread because we're totally jelly at this moment. So,
I know I've told Maureen that story before. She's like, stop it. I'm like, I know. But Maureen gets it. She's an Animal Kingdom lover like I am. So,
oh yeah, and she talked on one of our podcasts about the Animal Kingdom trek, the Wild Africa trek that she went on.
yes.
That's an
Oh, it's
awesome behind the
amazing.
scenes thing.
Incredible. I had a very good friend that I worked with when I was first at Animal Kingdom that eventually got to move up the ranks and got to be a tour guide on that track. And he talks about it all the time about it being one of the best experiences, just getting to get guests that close to the animals and answer their questions. It was just everything.
Oh yeah, and another thing that's kind of glossed over with Elaine's thing is if you're ever in a group and you don't mind splitting up and there's no single rider line, that we did this. We had a dining reservation and we were in
Mhm.
line for um, Toy Story Mania, and it was my wife, me, and my daughter, and they were going around. I was like, anyone for two or what? I was like, go, go. There, if they call for
Yes.
a one, I can move up, and we're not going to be next to each other. We're going to be back to back anyway, and so they
Yeah.
moved up, and we moved along a little bit quicker. It turned out, it wasn't that bad. We were close to the front anyway, but
Yeah.
if you ever have that chance and you don't mind splitting up, it's a great way to move through the line.
It is, and it pays sometimes because you move through the line so much faster, and oh my gosh, it's just so much easier for those cast members to just fill those cars as well. They can keep things moving really, really quickly. So, but yes, I did go through after both of those things happened, and I did give cast compliments to both of those cast members.
And that is another thing. Cast compliments on the app. I
Yes.
We were there in January and the first couple days, well, we were only in the parks for 2 days,
Mhm.
but I left cast member compliments each day and even the
Every
check-in
day.
day with the
Yeah.
person who checked us in, that there was something that was above and beyond.
Yes. I just that is whenever families ask me when they're planning a trip or friends will ask me if they're planning a trip, what's your number one tip? That is my number one tip always. You can leave cast compliments easily through your My Disney Experience app. It really does make a difference for those cast members because those things do go into their file. And when they want to seek out a new role or are looking for a promotion, people do look at those and it's just so helpful. And it also just makes you feel good as a cast member. It's not always the easiest job on the planet. Sometimes it can be really rough. So getting to see those nice messages from guests that you've helped, it means the world to so many.
And it wasn't a one experience by me, but you were talking about the people who are, getting the cast members who are getting people onto the rides or
Yeah.
well, attractions, official terminology there.
Attractions.
If it moves, it's a ride. If it's in general though, shows and rides are attractions. So,
Yes.
but we were on Space Mountain and there was a young kid who was a little bit in front of us, and he was brave enough to go through the line, but that bravery kind of left him whenever he got up to the front. And there was a the cast member working here. His name was Sajani. So S, then the word Johnny. You
Oh,
know,
so you could remember it for later.
it was yeah. I made sure to look at his name. I was like, wait, is that what it says? And then he was like kind of nonchalant. He's like, yes, Sajani. It's like it was an everyday name. I was like, all right, first time for me, but whatever
Obviously.
works. But he calmed this kid down, and he was saying, "Oh no, this is my favorite ride, and this
Aw.
and what." And he did the before the kid calmed down. I mean, he did such a fabulous job of calming that kid down that I was like, "Yeah, bravo!" Golf clap on
Yes.
that one.
And that's such a help to parents too. You know what I mean? I think that's the thing is cast members really are there to make sure that everyone has as magical a day as possible. So when they get to step in and help with things like that, it's everything. I worked at a ride with a very high height restriction. We did a lot of those kinds of jumping in when you have a
Hmm.
crying child and being like, hey, buddy, it's going to be totally fine. We got to hand out fast passes and things like that, which made it a lot easier. But it's everything. It's everything to have a cast member just go above and beyond just to make your day that much better.
And I've even seen with people who are on those type of rides, it can be a little bit scary that they'll carry pennies in their pocket, or they'll
Mhm.
have rubber bands around their wrist, or if you're a Pittsburgher, they're gum bands.
Mhm.
And if someone comes in and they're a little bit nervous, they're like, "Hey, look, here's my lucky penny. I ride this. I take this with me every time. Whenever I ride this, the first time, first time through in the morning, and it's
Mhm.
always my lucky. Here, take it for this ride, and it'll keep you
I
safe."
love
Or
that.
here's my lucky rubber band, or whatever they do, little
I
little
love
tchotchke.
that.
So that's a neat little thing for the future cast members or current cast members who are listening. There's another idea.
Absolutely. It's an easy way to give your guests a little extra, especially your younger guests that get a little antsy for sure. So I
So
love that.
you have a few other ones you want to talk about as well?
I do have one more. There used to be a thing. I'm not sure if it's still something that they do. It's never been something that they've advertised. But years ago, there was a big push for magical moments, quote unquote. So a lot of different rides and attraction shows, everything would have some kind of a magical moment, right? And it could be anything from getting to sit in a special section or getting to be like the first person on the ride in the morning. There was lots of options. Well, most of my magical moments I feel like take place in Animal Kingdom. I think it's just my favorite place. And so that's why. But we came in one morning and we really wanted to do Kilimanjaro safaris first thing. It's a great time to go, especially if it's like a cooler morning. Animals are out ready to do stuff. And most of the people I know that have ever heard the lions roar or make any kind of noise, it's been first thing in the morning. So, pro tip. But we got there first thing, and at the time, they were still doing these magical moments on the safari and they would actually, if you got up there, and talked to the right cast member, they might offer it to you. Well, I don't know what it was about our weird little group, my weird little like chosen family. We're just always very excited to be everywhere. And my friend wasn't currently working with Kilimanjaro Safaris, but had in the past. So he kind of knew some of the people there in passing. I think they saw him and they were like, hey, does your group want to go on like a private safari? And so at the time they were doing this thing, they would take out one of the other trucks, not like the standard Kilimanjaro Safaris trucks, but one of the other trucks. They would load you onto it and would take you out essentially on a private safari. So my friends and I got to go out onto the savannah in between a couple of early morning parties and look at whatever we wanted. They asked us like, "Hey, what are some of the animals that you're most excited to see today?" I love the elephants. I love the elephants and I love hyenas. Those are my favorites. So they just took us right over to where the elephants were and parked. We got to see that the baby was still a baby at the time. We got to watch him kind of run around and be sweet. And I got to ask 110 questions of our our guides, which is my favorite thing to do. I just want to know everything all the time. They took us over the hyenas. They gave us, I like to call it gossip. They gave us a little backstage gossip about how the hyenas were getting along at the time. Spoiler alert, they were not getting along well at the time. Hyenas are a very matriarchal society, so sometimes if they introduce a male hyena and the female hyenas are not a fan, it can be a big problem for that poor male hyena. So there was some of that going on, but they were so funny, just like telling us everything that was going on backstage with these animals. You could just really tell how much the cast members were so passionate about the animals that they worked with and like getting across this message of conservation. It was so much fun. I will remember it for the rest of my life. They were so sweet, took as much time as they possibly could, obviously without backing things up, but they were absolutely lovely. I got to see so many of the animals I love so much up close and personal. It meant the world to us, and it just was the highlight of that entire trip. So, but again, I mean, lovely cast members just like being like, you guys look like you're having the best time. Do you guys want to go on the safari? And they were like, of course, all of us were like, absolutely we do. So it was the best. So a lot of cast compliments left on that one too, for
That's kind of
sure.
like going back to the flight of passage thing of, hey, would you like to use a fast pass? It's like, do you really need to ask that?
What?
Do you
Truly, I was
let
like,
me
huh?
yes.
I know. It's just, and it's always so funny the way that they'll present it of like, do you want to do this incredibly super cool thing that not many people get to do? I just, so great. I mean, and that's again, another great pro tip. If you are having like the best time, if you really just like exude that joy because you are there with your loved ones having the best time, cast members do notice and it does make them want to do a little bit of extra. You know what I mean? I always tell people that too. If you're ever having a problem in the park, catch more flies with honey than you will with vinegar. If you come up to a cast member and just very politely explain to them what's going on, they are usually a little bit more likely to, I mean, they will always fix the problem as best as they can. That is part of their job. But if you're coming up to them with a little bit more patience and understanding, 9 times out of 10, if there is anything extra that they can do for you, they're going to want to do it, you know? So just always best foot forward, you know? It can be a very exhausting trip. It can be a lot. Emotions can be very, very high, but always remember those cast members are there to make sure that you stay safe and to make sure that you have the best time possible. So just assist them in doing that by always kind of coming to them with like a smile as best as you can, for sure.
Yeah, and there are many stories of whenever something does go wrong, whenever you do go up and you're in that polite mode of asking, hey, hey, this one, or even just asking thing, hey, can I do this? Or like we had an issue with it. We had whenever Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind was in the virtual queue, that
Mm-hmm.
we had reservations. We had to be somewhere else. That whenever our time was coming up, it's like, all right, we can't be there. So we went before and we're like, um, so our time's coming up and we have this to do. And they said, it was like, well, we can't let you in early. It's like, so like if that's what we were aiming at, we were like, no. So we're gonna be back later. Will that be a problem? They're like, oh no, sure. It's like, thank you. All right,
Yeah.
we're off. And it wasn't presented nicely, and they'll explain things. And again, there's often a little bit more leniency built into rules than are publicized often.
Yes. Well, you don't ever want to tell everyone, well, technically you can also do X, Y, and Z because then it just throws the whole thing off. But yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I love that. Just being like, yeah, no, totally. Come back later. It's not a big deal. We'll make sure you can get in. Not a problem.
Yeah, and then whenever it came up with like the different color, whenever you scan in, it was like,
Hmm.
oh, and then we just explained, here's what happened. We talked to them earlier, and then they're like, okay, yep, you're good. So
Yeah. Ooh, that's another thing too. If you ever do that, do make a mental note too of whatever, like the name on that name tag of the cast member that you spoke to, because that can sometimes help as well. If you're like, oh yeah, I talked to Tara earlier and she said da da da. Oh, fantastic. Sometimes I just want to make sure that like you've actually spoken to someone and you're not just trying to like go around the rules. You know what I mean? So I
and,
love
and
that.
and on that note, they have their hometowns for the cast members. Always pay attention because you never know when you'll find someone who's either from your college with a college program or a college in your hometown or from your hometown or whatever.
Yes.
And that could sometimes lead to a couple things. Like I was wearing Steeler stuff out in Disneyland, and there was a guy who I ran into on 2 different days at 2 different attractions who had a Steeler watch. He noticed my bag and the stuff that I had. He's
I
like,
love
"Yeah,
that.
Steelers." And I didn't really get any perks with that one, but he made a point to mention it. So
But just that
it's
camaraderie means so
exactly.
much, you know? Oh, that's another thing too. If you are in the parks, especially at Walt Disney World, if you're in the parks and you notice that there's a name of a college under a cast member's name on their name tag, that is usually a college pro. It's either a college program kid or it's someone who was on college program and just forgot their regular name tag for the day. But if they have that college name underneath, make a point. I mean, I do this with all cast members, but especially those college program kids, make a point to use their name. A lot of these kids are away from home for like the very first time. It's a lot. It is sometimes a very thankless job. Sometimes just utilizing their name on their name tag just makes a huge difference for them. My friend Kara used to really make a point of doing that when we would be in the parks together. And the way that I would see people's just faces light up, like the sound of their own name makes a huge difference. So, just a quick, hey, thanks so much, Matt. I really appreciate it. It can change the trajectory of somebody's entire day.
There's something about being called by your name. Yeah.
Yeah,
That connection. Definitely.
absolutely. I
Is
love
there
it.
anything else you wanted to add, Elaine, to
Um, I did have a lovely bus driver once pick us up. We were stranded at Disney Springs and he picked us up. We were not on his route at all. It was the end of his night. We had stayed at Magic Kingdom a little bit too late. The monorail had stopped running. The monorail does stop running, just FYI, everyone.
about an
We were
hour after the
standing
park
out.
closes? Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I don't know. We just somehow lost track of time. And we're standing out there and didn't quite realize exactly what time it was. It was a mess. Um, so we ended up taking a bus to Disney Springs, thinking that we could transfer from there back to our resort. And we're just sort of standing there and like no one's coming. And we saw a bus driver that was headed to the boardwalk, which was sadly not where we were staying. And he kind of pulled up to the three of us just standing there cold it was also February. It was freezing. It was one of those ice cold, like Orlando nights when the temperature drops below 40 and somehow it feels like it's 20 degrees. Oh my gosh, that Florida cold, it'll get you.
Yeah.
But we're just all standing out there like huddled together, freezing. And he pulls up and he goes, "Where are you folks headed?" And we told him, we're like, "We're trying to get back to Port Orleans Riverside." He's like, "Hop on, I got you." We had the whole bus to ourselves. He was lovely. His name was Eduardo. He was very helpful. But yeah, sometimes they'll hop in and help solve a problem as best as they can. We so appreciated that. He got us back to our hotel so we could get a good night's sleep for that next park day, but he definitely did not have to do that. We were not on his route. It was the end of his shift. He just, out of the kindness of his heart, picked us up and took us back home.
Thank you, Eduardo.
Thank you, Eduardo.
So now, everyone out there, if you have a destination or an experience that you'd like to have us discuss on the Where Yinz Goin podcast, or if you'd like to share your favorite place to visit or have a travel tip, feel free to contact me. I'd love to hear your feedback and ideas. Elaine, how can people get a hold of you?
You can find me on Instagram at Dreams by Design, Elaine, Elaine, just like on Seinfeld. Or you can shoot me an email at Elaine at dreamsbydesigntravel.com.
Here at the podcast, we're on Facebook and X at Where Yinz Goin. Yinz, Y-I-N-Z, Goin, G-O-I-N with the apostrophe and the question mark. Don't forget that. You can also reach me, email Matt, M-A-T-T, at dreamsbydesigntravel.com. All this information will be in the episode description. So if you want to contact any of us to book a trip or have any questions, you know how to get a hold of us. You don't have to have written this down or have a photographic memory, especially on a podcast like today where there's a whole bunch of people on. So please like, follow, subscribe, leave a review, tell a friend if you like what you heard, let others know. Then you can be like the hero, like, oh, this person turned me on to this awesome podcast. And then maybe they'll give you a cast member compliment too,
We love that.
if you're a cast member, of course. So, Elaine, thank you very much. This was a lot of fun. We're gonna have to have you
Thanks,
back
Matt.
for something else too.
Absolutely. I'd love to come back. I appreciate it.
So, everyone else, please join us next time. We're heading out, Nat. We'll see you later.